So here's the world shown by population. It's a gridded cartogram. So Chongqing is here, probably the biggest city in China. Here's India. We are just 1% of the world's people, slightly less than 1%. We only have 0.5% of the world's children. If we manage to stop immigration, we could get that down to 0.25% of the world's children, while still having 1% of the world's old people. And that would be fun. A more complicated map of Germany, just to show the kind of things you can do here. The blue areas are declining population. So Eastern Germany, but also the Ruhr. Like most of Europe, population levels in Germany are declining. All of Europe, people are having fewer than 2 children per couple. In some parts of Europe, it's 1.3, 1.1 children. This is a continent which is shrinking. Population change in the last 25 years. The red areas are areas that are still rising quite rapidly in population. There are not many red areas. They tend to be areas where life is tricky. So the Yemen, which again was in the news today, parts of West Africa, Central Africa. In China, you see rapid population growth in the cities, Chongqing, and down on the coast. But equally, you see these blue areas, which are population decline, as rural areas are depopulating in China. And our continent is shrinking. The fastest declines are in Eastern Europe. What we talk about as immigration is actually population decline for Eastern Europe, and is the only reason why our population is not declining, while we're still this orange colour, because people are moving from here to here. They're moving because of where the concentrations of wealth are in the world. This is an attempt to look at where the money is, not by country, but by a very small area. Here's Tokyo. You see the money is beginning to move around in a different way than before. There's been the most incredible changes since 2008 in terms of GDP and wealth worldwide that we still haven't caught up with. South Asia, one of the areas still growing rapidly in population. If China was going to balance its ageing, the easiest way to do it would be to import people from here to here. Not easy politically, but it would help a lot worldwide. Here's the Middle East as you've never seen it before, and one of the few places where people are still having 5 or 6 surviving children per woman. Hopefully that will decline rapidly. It will not decline if there's continuous war in that part of the Middle East. Here's the African continent looked at in a different way. Here's where the elections were held recently in Nigeria. This is why they matter, because it's so many people. Russia is now largely Moscow, and is shrinking rapidly, and really is a country that's finding it very hard to adapt to its changing status in the world. There's population growth looked at in a different way. So we have little bit of growth in the south of England from immigration. I mean, if you just look at that size of that little bump and compare it to the population growth of the whole world, the arguments in Britain about there being too many people compared to what's happening in India, what's happening in China, I personally think that this isn't an argument about too many people. I think what's happening in Britain is that people are confusing their drop in living standards and the fact they're finding it harder to house themselves, and they're finding it harder to school their children and so on, harder to get a secure job, and they're assuming that the reasons for all of that are immigration, and that isn't the reasons for why that is happening. Here's population decline. You'll notice that we're bigger here. We have more areas which are declining in population than are actually growing, because the people who are coming to the southeast of England, and particularly to London, a few to the east. But the decline in China is massive, just as the increase in other parts of China is massive. This animation goes far too fast, but if any of you are fascinated by China, Ben has these slides up on the Views of the World website, you can look at them in detail. Chinese human geography is just staggering over what's currently happening in that continent. And China's population is about to start declining quite rapidly. That's what happens if you have a one-child policy for that length of time. If you really want to see rapid population decline in the UK, all you need to do is to vote to get a referendum on Europe and then watch all the people leave who come. These are young, productive people with degrees. And just watch what happens to the British economy then, which would make the world a more equal place if we became poorer.